Hi everyone, it's Fay here from FayJohnston.com. If you are listening live, you'll see the red live icon, and please post a comment or a little emoji to let me know that you're out there. So today I'm going to talk you through one of the exercises which is in my book, Plants That Speak, Souls That Sing, which helps you to heal and tune into your relationship with nature. So I'm going to talk you through the exercise, and then and at the end there are 7 questions for you to tune into and get your journal out or take a walk in nature to start thinking about your plant stories and your connection with nature. So as I said, this is from my book, and it's from chapter 2, which is knowing yourself and your plant story. And the reason this kind of came about when I was writing the book is that I really feel that there's a part that's within all of us that feels very at home in nature. You know, I don't need science to tell me that this is good for me, but I also appreciate the fact that we have neuroscience now which reveals to us that our brains actually behave differently in nature, and that time in nature helps to relieve stress, and it helps us not only to feel better, but actually to think better as well. So for what I found is that there's a common thread that weaves itself through many of my clients and also myself and my story, is that most people who meet me or connect with me have always felt a deep connection with plants since they were young children. So just tune in and know that if that's the case for you. So what was my story was that, you know, I was working in the city and I just got to this place where I just felt really miserable and depressed and very stressed out. And part of my really becoming aligned with my true self again was through my rewilding process, reconnecting to nature. And that's why I talk about the plants really discovering me and me letting them into my heart. So what I find is that clients that come to me or participants on my workshops, through no deliberate action, have somehow lost the connection with plants and nature that we used to have as a child. And the people that work with me, and this might be you, feel that loss so deeply. So for some of us, it's a nostalgia for childhood. For some of us, it's actually the trigger is the loss of a loved one, and plants connecting and healing that grief. And for others, it's simply a call of the wild, and that wildness within us, which has become tamed by the responsibilities of adulthood and coming of age and so on. And for many people, it's a desire to actually interact more deeply with their garden or local green space and places in nature. Some people are completely, really hypersensitive to this devastation that we are causing to our planet and the damage that we are inflicting on the earth. But for most people, there's a feeling that the beautiful plants around us, the natural world, are carrying a message. They're intelligent beings, and that there's a definite purpose to the Green Kingdom and its wisdom that we can't ignore. So we need to rediscover it and reopen those places within ourselves that can rekindle this relationship so that we can tune in and really hear what's happening. So I'm really super aware, and obviously I'm looking at my book here, and there's some stories that I tell in the book, because when I was a child, I really had a lovely connection with nature, and there were many trees and plants that have left a really strong impression on me. The first memory I have, actually, really one of the deepest memories, is May. The May blossoms, the cherry blossoms and the apple blossoms are really close to my heart. And also memories of a lovely horse chestnut tree in the garden where myself and my neighbour used to play together countless days and hours, really, laughing and playing and kind of becoming who we were, really. Also, there was the hawthorn, which I feel really aligned with too, because we used to have a hawthorn hedge in our garden that, being children, we would always find a hole in and crawl through to meet our neighbours on the other side and get, scraped and scratched and lots of leaves and thorns and stuff everywhere in our hair. Also, again, for me, it was apple trees at the bottom of the garden where we had a rope ladder that we could climb up. There was also a particular variety of mint that we had in the garden when I was a child. And so whenever I see that mint, there is something which opens in me that I can connect to. So, and also, not all our memories of plants as children are happy. So the horse chestnut that I'm talking about, we played together for years in this tree until one day my neighbour fell from the tree and she had a very bad injury, and I can still sort of remember of that trauma. But also, in a sense, that marked the end of an era for us as we sort of grew up and we no longer played in the tree, and there was something that had been so innocent that was actually essentially broken. And also plants, my partner Jamie, I'm laughing because he shared a story with me about when he grew up for some of his life in Colombia, and so being a very inquisitive 5-year-old, he would be putting all sorts of things in his mouth, as we do, and one of those things was the chili pepper. So his first memory of meeting that particular plant didn't go down that well. So I'm just sharing some of these delightful stories with you to help you remember and connect with the plant stories that live within you. So the first question for you, this is an exercise in our self-reflection, is to cast your mind back to your childhood and think about what's your earliest memory of plants. So you might remember the flowers that your grandma used to have. I know many people have memories of sweet peas and roses and lavender when they think of their grandparents, or there might have been a particular flower that your mother used to have or grow or bring into the house. So just note down any plants that come to mind, any stories. Maybe there's fragrances of plants. Maybe it's even a herb that somebody used to cook with that you would smell the kitchen on a weekend, would bring fragrance to the kitchen. So just note down the plants which you feel have had an impact on your life. And so that's the first one to tune into. And you'll notice it's a really fun exercise to do, just to really map your plant story, because we all have this web of connection to the natural world. We have plant allies, which I'm sure you've heard me talk about before. So it's really fascinating to start to open the portals within you, those memories within you that are already deeply connected to the natural world, that may have simply got pushed aside because you were too busy earning a living, bringing up your family, etc., and not able to spend as much wild time in nature that you used to as a child, or that you would really long to in your heart. So the second question for you to think about is, did you as a child have a favourite place in nature? And if so, how did that make you feel? So cast your mind back. I remember lovely, happy memories. Like I've said, I've talked about the May blossom and being under the May tree. I've talked about my lovely rope ladder that was attached to the apple tree. I've talked about the horse chestnut tree that we used to spend some time in. And there was a cypress tree as well that we used to climb inside. So there's a theme to my stories, but maybe there was a special place for you that you used to be able to go to. Maybe it's a local park, or there might have been a favourite tree somewhere, or maybe you live actually by water or grew up by the coast and there was a special place in nature that you used to go. And just notice if you can cast your memory back as to how those places made you feel. What emotion does that conjure up for you today? So just tune in there. And then the third question for you is just tuning into today. Are there any plants or flowers, herbs and trees, or places in nature that you feel drawn to, that you just simply love, you have to go to. They're your kind of go-to spots to make you feel good. And what about those places? Maybe there are certain places in nature or plants that you choose to avoid and you kind of pull away from and don't like to go to or to hang out with. So just notice, just tune in with yourself. Maybe if you take a walk through the park or in your garden, and just notice which of those plants and places that you naturally gravitate towards, and which of those ones that you're like, I don't really like that. That doesn't make me feel good. So again, we're just noticing these different nuances of how these places in nature talk to us, what memories they bring up for us, what emotions they trigger for us in this lovely landscape, in our inner landscape that we're carrying with us. And just noticing how these plants that are coming up for you, so this is the fourth point, is just noticing how the plants that you are bringing to mind, your memories. And I'd love to hear from some of you who are watching, by the way. Post in the comments which plants feel that they're coming up for you in this trip down memory lane. And just noticing how these plants and these places in nature are making you feel, okay? So including, and it's really important here when we do this kind of self-reflective deep dive, we're just noticing, we're just observing, we're not putting any judgment, or we're not trying to find meaning in this. This is just a discovery exercise. So you're just really being this a detective, and you're just noticing, how does this make me feel? And we don't have to ask ourselves why. We're just simply observing, and we're tuning into the good as well as the bad. So if something makes you feel a little bit sad or emotional or angry or frightened, there's a plant that makes me feel frightened. I'm going to share that. I'll share that another day. And I'm laughing because I recognize it, and I'm always kind of kind to myself about that particular plant when I see it, and it brings up a fear in me, which I'll share that another time. So again, noticing what these feelings are and noticing where you hold them. So for me, often when I'm experiencing plants, it's either in my throat or in my heart. But for you, there might be a particular plant that brings up a sensation in your body as well as a physical emotion. So just noticing again what's going on, or even sometimes in our belly we have these deep kind of gut reactions to places or memories that plants are stirring up for us. And noticing sensations in your body, and this for me occurs sometimes in particular places. There might be a tingling, there might be a coldness, there might be an excited, happy vibration. So just again, noticing what these plants bring up for you. So we're on question 5 now, and just tuning into, when was the last time that you felt really touched by nature? And again, how did you sense this connection? Where did you feel it in your body? And I think this is quite a key question for many of us at the moment, because we have been inside. We've been unable to really perhaps get out and about in the way that we want to. So where we might have normally gone and had a lovely walk, or hill climbing, or walked along the coast, or had a lovely walk by the canal or in our park, we've not been able to really do that. So I'm wondering, so just ask yourself, when was the last time you felt really touched by nature? And again, tuning into what that felt like. What was that emotion? What was that bringing up for you? And is it a particular place in nature? Is it a plant? Just noticing. So question 6. Do you remember the first time, so this is a bit lighter, do you remember the first time you gave or were given flowers? What feelings do you recall? Now, I really love to have this question out there, because for many reasons, but for the main reason is that many people have difficulty with the concept of plants kind of helping us heal, or connecting with plants emotionally and so forth. And really, I just think we need to just look at somebody's reaction when they are given flowers to see the power of plants in action, the healing power of flowers, for example, in action. When somebody is given flowers, particularly when it's a surprise, it's such an act of kindness and joy and pleasure that it's lovely to experience as the giver and as the receiver. And actually, it's lovely to witness as somebody who is seeing that take place. So just think about that. And if someone is talking to you and they're not really understanding the concept of healing with plants and nature, then just you can ask them to recall an example of giving somebody flowers. And flowers just bring absolute delight to people. So it's a lovely exercise to do. Anyway, and the final question is, and again, this is tuning in really to all of the questions that you've had so far, that you'll be thinking about, that we've looked at so far. But just really asking yourself, and there's probably a plant or a place in nature that, as I've been talking through these questions, has come up for you. And obviously you can pause this and listen back and just tune in to say, what was that question again? But so the final question really is, has a plant or a place in nature deeply touched your life? And then the invitation is to explore how. And I know for me, the answer is yes, 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 with so many examples. Not at least the experience I had while I ran a flower farm in Nova Scotia in Canada, which was one of the reasons I ended up writing this book, because to share my experiences. So just noticing what comes up for you, and what emotions come up. I know for me, when we had to leave the farm, I really did suffer grief for a very long time. And I think if it hadn't been for us moving here and having such a beautiful, amazing garden and nature space, I would still be really, really struggling with that loss of that deep connection. And again, I think many of us perhaps have had an experience of being in a local park perhaps, or even maybe a plant in your garden. You know that when you see a tree coming down, when you see council workers removing a tree, or you know that, for example, in your garden or your neighbour's garden, a beautiful tree that you might have shared many moments with, many years with, as part of your landscape, has to come down for whatever reason. That's an experience, that's an emotional kind of connection that we experience. So just again, noticing if a plant or a place in nature has deeply touched your life. So that was all I was going to share with you today. So that's some of the exercises in the book, Plants That Speak, Souls That Sing. And it's available in all the usual places if you haven't got hold of it yet. And also it's available as an audio book. So you can get it in hard copy or Kindle or audio. And you can hear me talking through the meditations like I've been doing today. And also, if you go to my website, fayjohnston.com, you can get a free sample chapter from the introduction to give you more of an idea of the types of things which are in that book. So I really hope today has inspired you to just tune in, to open to those memories, that your plant story, and how you connect with nature, and how nature is totally like this, interwoven into your life, and for a reason. Okay, so just start to open and listen to what's coming up for you, what emotions are coming up for you, what plants are coming up for you, because these are your allies. Just because we were connected to a plant in a childhood, or something that we used to like to do in our childhood, and we haven't done it for years, that doesn't mean that we can't open and start connecting with that again now. So thank you for watching, everybody, and throw me some comments or some emojis and let me know what plants and places in nature are coming up for you. Thank you guys. Take care. Bye.